Mase and Honorable Amisi, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I want Honorable Mutua. In his opening, he made a few, I think, mistakes, where he says the fence was 1 billion, or was it 1 million? Then he says he brought it down to 850 million, or is it 850K? That's just a comment. Regarding wildlife payments, you mentioned 1 billion was paid. Yes, I have confirmed 1 billion was paid. And His Excellency the President asked you within 60 days to pay a balance of, clear the balance of 3 billion within 60 days, and that was on April 12, 2024. Could you probably tell us, within that time, the 2 months are over in June, how far have you done? And he even asked you to simplify the way the forms are done. That's what I want to know for the wildlife. Secondly, the disabled and street children. There is the National Disability Mainstreaming Strategy of 2018 to 2022 and the Street Families Rehabilitation Fund of 2003, 46,000 street families as at 2021. What have you done, or what will you do? Sorry, we have not done, but what will you do if you go to the ministry? Please give us an idea on that. The last one is, in the UK, there is you have just mentioned that you didn't know about the National Employment Authority and what it does. In the UK, there is agency of government, job centers. They're in each and every place where people say what jobs are available, and they link people to the jobs in industry and all those places. What is your idea about it? And if you do it, would you devolve it right to the locations, sub-locations, or is it counties? Thank you.
Honorable Mase.
Thank you. Honorable nominee, my focus is on unemployment or limited opportunities. There's a limited number of opportunities in the country compared to the number of graduates that are coming out of our institutions every year. To make the situation worse, there is a mismatch between skills and industry needs. Sadly, there is an unfair recruitment process. And the question I'm asking myself, some of those graduates, they're actually educating themselves, doing manual jobs, casual jobs. Some of those students, their parents have got to spend time on and off police cells because of brewing changa to take them to school. Others, like in my village, you do pottery. That is how I went to school. And I'm imagining if I did not get a job, what would have happened? So as a nominee, if you are approved, I want to hear about a structured approach to absorbing these graduates into the job market. Because if one graduate, we have graduates who graduated 10 years ago or more. And the reason why we saw them in the streets is because of unemployment. Some of them said, I'm even dead. I'm already dead. Because how do you employ somebody who graduated last year? And then there is another person who graduated 15 years ago, is now 46 years old, 40 years old, with a first class honors, and is in the village. And his sibling is telling him, why are you even talking about education? I graduated 15 years ago and I'm jobless. I mean, my brother graduated 15 years ago and is jobless. And you are here telling us about education. So we really need, my friend, you need, this I think requires a multi-sectoral approach. Sit with their counterpart in public service. Sit with their counterpart in education. Probably borrow a leaf from TSC, where they say, first come, first serve. Why should this other guy, the parent has struggled as a degree, retire before getting a job? And somebody who graduated last year because of the networks, the connections, gets a job before the other. And that takes me to the question of corruption. You must tell us how you're going to deal with the aspect of corruption so that there is equity in distribution of jobs, so that there is fairness in the manner we actually procure, and so that there is no nepotism. That now, because it is Mutua in this Ministry of Labor, it is only people from your region who will have to go to take these jobs in the US or in Germany. I think that is my concern. Once we address that as a country, then I can assure you we will not have young people in the streets. Thank you.
Caleb.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have 3 questions, but I'll ask one. If I get an opportunity later, I'll ask the other 2.
I'll allow you to.
Okay. Now, Mr. Speaker, I think I have vetted the nominee before, and of course, as a member of the Committee of Defense and Foreign Relations, we have interacted a lot. And I'm not going to vet you based on what you're going to do. I'm now going to look at your history. You've said that you've worked in government for 20 years. And I want to give you some of the excerpts from what you've said in public while serving in those offices. When you were the spokesperson of Kibaki regime, their press conference and pronouncement you made on Oscar Foundation, 2 hours later the officials were killed, assassinated. It gave the regime a bad name. Whether it was true or not, the pronouncement gave the regime a bad name. In the same regime, you also pronounced yourself to the visiting senator, Senator Obama, as a very small man that we should not bother about. He later became the President of the United States of America. It also gave your regime a bad name. Later on, you also said that you want to rejuvenate the entertainment industry. And you started a Cobra Squad as one of the things that you knew this one is going to revitalize the arts and the music industry. It performed poorly and later disappeared from the screen. In the same regime, we also, during the Kazi kwa Vijana initiative, you said that all the old trees in town must be cut and instead replaced with flowers to beautify Nairobi. Something that did not go on well with the environmentalists and the champions of tree planting. When you become the governor of Machakos, you started a program called Chap Chap, Maendeleo Chap Chap, bought ambulances and all that. Most of those programs flopped, and nothing much came out of it. You actually turned it into a party called Maendeleo Chap Chap instead of the Maendeleo itself. Later on, during the stint as a governor, you once visited the State House with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, and you confessed that
Be fair to him, it was not a stint. He served 2 terms.
Yes, 2 terms.
Yes.
So around that time, you visited State House with the Right Honorable Raila Odinga in a state event, and you said the president now serving, who was then the deputy president, squeezed your hand very hardly and painfully. You even reported to the Kilimani police station. Nothing came out of that case. Recently, as a Minister for Foreign Affairs, on an X, what is now called X, it was called then Twitter, when Turkey had a devastating earthquake where thousands of lives were lost, you promised on the behalf of the Kenyan government that food and medicine will be donated to that country. Right now, even the officials of Kenya in Turkey are embarrassed to face the government there because nothing was delivered. And it has embarrassed this country forever in terms of Turkey and the Kenya relationship. And lastly, where you just came from as a minister for tourism, you said that all tourists arriving here must plant trees, and they'll even have a fee on it to buy the local seedlings. Something that we don't know whether it was passed by the cabinet, where it was a road declaration. This one puts a lot of skeleton in your closet. What do you say about it?
Mishi?
Yeah, thank you, Honorable
Mishi,
Chairman.
let you hold. I think that's quite a mouthful. Let's have those two. We have had, oh, it's three, yes. Dawood, Mary, and Mrs. Churchit.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So let me start with Honorable Dawood. Just to clarify on the figures, is that there were Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, especially the Department of Wildlife, through KWS, were advertising for tenders that are being given at an approximately 3 million shillings a kilometer, which means when you have 300 million as an allocation, you only have 100 kilometers. And by bringing it down to 850, instead of 100 kilometers, we're able to get 352 kilometers of fencing. And that saves money for Wananchi. About the jobs, and I'm glad because you were there during that meeting when the president talked about compensation to people. We started the process, and one of the challenges that we face in this country is bureaucracy. The president gives directives, and then they are caught in the annals of bureaucracy, treasury, through the systems going on. The process had started, and I hope it will continue. We did not meet the target because of the normal bureaucracies of getting money from here to go here, even though the money is there, but it is something that will be carried out. It's I like the fact that you discussed the various disability and the challenges that are there, and especially in ensuring that people are given the rights they deserve. Mr. Speaker, we give you an example. I'll never forget this. During the campaign period, I accompanied His Excellency the President, then he was the Deputy President and a candidate, on an economic forum that was held at Racecourse with members of people living with disabilities. And one lady spoke about the challenges she faces as an employee because her child has autism, and the problem she faces because she can't even take time off for some of the things that need to be done to take care of that child, and the lack of support systems, and the challenges that our people living with disabilities go through. And it was quite sad because I remember when the president stood to speak, he, for about 2 minutes, could not speak. His voice was choking. And he promised that people will not, in this country, go through the challenges they go through just because your child is disabled or you're facing a form of disability. And my mandate, if approved and appointed and sworn in, is to ensure that that promise that the president gave, that I vividly remember, is enacted. And I think we will have done our job making sure that people live well. When I was the government of Machakos, I was, I think, the only governor who enacted the Disability Act by declaring that no building constructed in Machakos or operating in Machakos could operate without, places where would be comfortable for the disabled, for example, with ramps and others. And we shut down buildings. We shut down supermarkets until they build those ramps. I want to even take it further. I'll even have my own rules, like the Michuki rules, showing people occupational health hazards, disability, things that needs to be done. When somebody is hard of seeing and they go into a building with lifts, including Parliament, why do they need somebody to come and help them identify which number? If you go to London, you go to Australia, even go to South Africa, the numbers on the keypads of pushing the buttons for a lift have braille. And so we need to standardize some of these issues so that the disabled can also live a good life. I want to reply to Madam Emasi, and I totally agree with her.
He has not answered one question, and he talked about the wildlife compensation bureaucracy. I want to put it to him, he's part of that bureaucracy, which he has not told us how much did he manage within the 60 days His Excellency gave him. He's not talked about the job centers as well.
How many did you pay in the time you are in tourism?
In tourism, we processed and we have paid close to 1 billion shillings. The pending human wildlife compensation that is there from the 2015, 2020, we're looking at about 7 billion shillings that need to be paid. And you pay according to the exchequer that you receive and the clearances that are given through the exchequer.
Paid $1 million.
We paid $1 billion.
$1 billion.
$1 billion shillings, and the paying is still ongoing and the process are going. And I've been able to streamline, and what we've done is that we've put together a scheme service, and we got a scheme administrator. So it's not just the government officials sitting down with paperwork, who now when there's a human wildlife conflict, we've even bought motorcycles for people to be able to visit the homes, take the documents digitally, and those are captured digitally, so that there is no paperwork that has to go through the chief and all the process that takes 6 months, so that the payment schedule is there waiting for the payment. And that's where we are. About the job linkages is that, as I answered earlier on, Mheshimiwa Ishungwa, is to connect the people through proper communication and teaching people on how to do it. But also, let me take this opportunity to talk about that we are not just about sending jobs of us, people to go overseas. We want to bring jobs here. And outsourcing of jobs is an opportunity. Today, in the world, when you talk about labor migration, Philippines is leading. But from my research, Philippines is no longer is sending people overseas, but more people are getting jobs in Philippines, within Philippines grounds, by BPOs, and we are going to, and I'm going to push, if I'm confirmed, to get more companies to bring their outsourcing to Kenya for accounting services, for telemedicine services, for telephony services, so that people can work from here for overseas firms, but in Kenya. And that can just be as many people as the ones that we are sending people overseas to work. So it's an area that I'm quite committed. Mheshimiwa Emase had a very good point, and that is clearly that when Kenya Kwanza was campaigning, remember the slogan by yours truly, Mheshimiwa Speaker, that mtoto wa maskini na tajiri watakaa kwa meza moja. It is not just about who knows who in our country. And that is the system that we want to put into place. And the high unemployment that we have here is also based on skill development, because you need at times to retrain yourself to the market. You've studied to be an engineer, and there's a finite number of employment opportunities for engineering. And if they're not there, they're not there. And so at times we need to show people how they can restudy and get new skills to add on to the skills that they have, and also how to be able to diversify. And so the area of skill development is very key. For example, the issue of languages. Opportunities arise with languages, and one of the things that I'm going to push is for our TVETs and our skill development, so that as you learn to be an electrician, you're also learning a foreign language, German, you're learning Spanish, you're learning Italian, so that by the time you're done and there's an opportunity in those foreign countries, you go and plug and play. At least you've got basic understanding of those languages. But also, we need to train people for ways they can get jobs. For example, Canada, when we had a discussion, had specifically say that for them, for plumbers or electricians, there are basic minimums that people need to have, certain ways of doing things, so that we have our curriculum based on the market. When I was served as the Minister of Tourism and Wildlife, I started changing the way utalii works, because utalii has been churning people out with the same skills that they had from the 1970s and 80s. Vile unapanga kitambaa, vijiko, the way you cook is the 70s and 80s. The world has changed, so that now the market tells you these are the new international standards, so that when people leave utalii college, for example, or leave any TVET, they don't have to be retrained to work anywhere, so that it's plug and play. So that is very important. Now let me come to the issue of corruption. And I have always been known to be very fair in terms of work and labor. And I'm going to ensure, like what our president has told us, that you do not nominate me to be a cabinet secretary if approved of Ukambani or Machakos, where I come from, but a cabinet secretary of the entire country. Because nobody sends a postcard to be born from Luya land, or from Kisii land, or from Turkana, or from Kiambu, or from Coast, Nobody sends a postcard to God. It's where you're born. And you have a right to receive government services properly without fear and favor. And it's the same way in terms of opportunities for jobs across the entire. So I'm going to work with my colleagues, and our president has been at the forefront of this. And if I'm getting an opportunity to join his cabinet, we're going to push this to ensure that there's equity in terms of people getting opportunities, especially also people suffering with disabilities, and also our young men and women who can work. Honorable Caleb, Mheshimiwa Speaker, has made quite a few allegations, and I'm going to answer them one by one. And it's unfortunate that most of them are basic propaganda, but I'm going to prove so. Number one, the Oscar Foundation issue that happened was quite unfortunate. Yes, Mr. Speaker.
But it doesn't come at the end. It's a Kenyan who has sent a message that you took the former president of Machakos to launch a modern Dubai-like city. He's asking me to ask you, where is it?
Thank you. The Oscar Foundation issue, we had a security meeting in the morning, and I want this to go on record. And led by the head of public service then, police commissioner and others, as a government spokesperson. And we agreed that this was a statement that was going to be issued. The president was briefed. I issued the statement because the legal